I was a late recruit when it comes to getting attention from colleges, and so I'm originally from the Bay Area. I lived in Fremont for quite some time. I was an exceptional athlete, great player in Fremont. However, I was that bad attitude kid who wasn't taking my opportunities seriously. It led to me being cut from the team in fourth period on a Friday. And at the time, I remember exactly, cut from the team, fourth period on a Friday. I was living with my mentor because my mom had moved to Sacramento. When I got home that day, he kicked me out of the house. So I was kicked off the team and kicked out of the house in the same day my sophomore year playing varsity basketball in the Bay Area. And at that time, that was a huge wake-up call because I didn't understand how was I going to be able to make it to my dream of playing collegiate basketball if I'm kicked off the team as a sophomore. Most people are being recruited in their freshman, sophomore years. People know about them. They're on these different lists. They're getting letters from different colleges, and here I am, kicked out and kicked off. And I moved to Sacramento, and my attitude still wasn't right because I got to McClatchy and they kicked me out of there. So I'm like, oh my God, like I just had to refocus and reshape myself. And so front row watching me play in the state championship. So just because someone doesn't see the value in your child for that team doesn't mean your child doesn't have value to play at the next level. Me and my mentor were back cool, so he was there too. But even then, going to the state championship and becoming this top-ranked player, top-ranked team, I wasn't a highly recruited individual. And so sometimes your opportunities to be recruited come in the most unlikely of formats. A Nike coach came up after the season to Grant High School to see two of my other teammates. Didn't come to see me, but the coach said, you might want to take a look at this kid. And so by the time that practice was over, that Nike coach said to me, I want that kid on that team. What do I need to do? So he then asked me to go to Georgia, Florida, Indiana, and France. And so, and playing in the first tournament was the Virginia. And there was a guy in front of me who had already committed to go to Louisville University. He went up for a dunk, split his finger open, and had to go to the hospital. Well, that led an opportunity for me to play. We was already 3 games into the tournament, 3.5 games left. In those 3.5 games, I became one of the top 50 players in the country and started getting recruited from all over. So very short window, but I balled out when I had the opportunity and I got that attention. So it's not too late. We can't give up and say, oh, because my kid doesn't have a scholarship offer by this time period. That's not to say that the next opportunity, the next tournament, that your kid might get seen by the right person. It only takes one person or one team to offer your kid an opportunity. Your job is to make sure that they get to those tournaments, they get to those games on time, by the way, parents, and that they're able to compete. And so because of that, I was able to go on and play at the collegiate level. And one story I want to share with you guys in terms of like understanding that this is a business. This is not for fun, not for play. They say that your kid is a student athlete, but they're an athlete first because that's what pays the bills. You don't play, you don't play. Like at that point in time, if you stop going to practice, your scholarship, your money's done. You're not going to school. So you really need to understand the economics of how this works. I remember one time my coach said to me, because I was acting like a regular student. I was at the University of Massachusetts, which is important to the story I'm going to tell you. That's where I originally got recruited to and accepted a scholarship to. And my coach said to me, because I was late a couple of times, hanging out, doing the normal college thing, going to parties, and he said to me, Jameel, I'm not going to let what you do off the court affect how I feed my wife and kids. Enough said, right? This guy was making $800,000. He wasn't going to let what I do affect his bottom line of getting paid. So when you think about sending your kid off to college and playing for a coach who's being paid several $100,000, their job is on the line because of what your kid does. So they need to take that serious. And the other thing is, why is your kid worth that investment? $30,000, $40,000 to go to a university for free. You have to be able to prove that to the, so when they think about giving out that scholarship money, why are they worth $40,000? Food, housing, transportation, books, all that. So it's really a serious business of playing at the collegiate level. Other thing I'll tell you, parents, recruit the school in addition to the coach. Because what happened to me was I didn't realize that my coach was on the bubble in terms of his job was on the line. If we didn't get to the NCAA tournament, he was going to be fired. And we got all the way to the conference championship and lost to Temple. And the very next morning, 8 a.m., he was fired. We flew back from Philadelphia that night, and before I can even wake up, I already got the news that our coach was fired. So you need to understand, would your kid and you be happy at that school if they never play and if that coach gets fired? Because otherwise, a year or two into the agreement, because scholarships are 1 year renewable, they're not committed to you for 4 years. So I end up transferring back to Sacramento State because the same year that my coach was fired, or I stayed 1 more year with the new coach who came over from Villanova, who had recently lost his job. But it was like 50 or 60 college coaches lost their job that year. So all that shuffling around of people going to different colleges and coaches trying to find different jobs, it was very difficult for me to find a new landing spot. So when I came back home to Sacramento State, I had to really refocus again, understand that I could still achieve my dreams of playing professionally, which I did. I was drafted to the minor league of the Chicago Bulls. I played in New Zealand, Australia, and Mexico. Right? I made my dreams happen from Sac State. It wasn't my original dream, but it still happened for me. So through that whole process, some of the things that I think that you guys should consider doing: one, saving the money now and investing in the SAT prep program. The better SAT score that your child gets, the better schools that they get an opportunity to go to. And sometimes if your SAT score is high enough, they can go to a school academically and still play. Or for me, I didn't get to go to Stanford even though they were recruiting me because my SAT score wasn't high enough. I missed out on that opportunity, right? So if you're gonna invest in cleats and shoes or even give your kids video games, stuff like that, they should for sure have an SAT prep course. That should be in the budget. I would also strongly consider, like Spencer was saying, going out to those different universities, getting your child in front of those different coaches, going to all the different camps, sending out those emails, having a solid videotape of your kid playing, being able to put together a package, whether it's an email, clips, stuff like that. But it is a real business, and I can't stress that enough because we think of it as just playing the game. But that coach don't think about their check as a game. They want to keep their job. And so I'm also fortunate at being at Intercom High School. I share an office with a guy who runs a 707 football program. And we've had some pretty high profile athletes at Intercom. And within the last 3 years that I've been there, every single Pac-12 head football coach has been in my office. SEC coaches, Big 12 coaches, and some of them have talked to me specifically about students and asking about their attitude, their behavior, how they address people in class. They've gone out and talked to the lunch lady. They want to know how your kid interacts with all people because they can't always be concerned about the action your kid's going to take when no one's watching. So those are, it's hopefully you guys understand the level of severity I'm trying to communicate. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I just want you to know from my experience, having 3 college coaches, 2 of them got fired, and having to, redirect my path in that process. I think one other thing that I wanted to share with you about this process is that I guess re-emphasizing that recruit the school, be happy with signing there and being there as a student, even if you don't play. Because at the end of the day, if I had to do it all over again, the very first school that offered me a scholarship was the University of Michigan, and that coach was fired my freshman year too, but I wouldn't have left. I left UMass because I wasn't happy there as a student. I was only there for basketball. But if I was at Michigan, I would have stayed. So hopefully you guys get something from that. I'm at Intercom High School. If you ever want to come and talk to me, I always want to make myself available for parents and students who have questions.